What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants unsurprisingly lost to the Philadelphia Eagles today, but man, it wasn't even close. It was just ugly. 28-3, Saquon Barkley had a field day. I mean, that was legitimately one of the greatest performances of Saquon Barkley's career. And of course, it happened in his return to MetLife Stadium against the Giants, and the Giants just laid an egg. I mean, this offense is atrocious. I mean, big topic of conversation that we have to discuss. Daniel Jones finally sent to the bench in the fourth quarter. Drew Lock playing out the garbage time. What does that mean for the future of this team? Of course, we're going to react to that and discuss it, but man, I think we got our answers on this team for the rest of the season. We're now 2-5. We're 0-3 against the division. We're 0-2 on primetime. Have another primetime game coming up next week, unfortunately. The season is cooked. This is not a playoff team. We know that now. I mean, if you had any hope left going into this one, if you thought the Giants could climb to 3-4 and get back into the NFC East race, well, the Eagles got their get-right game against us, and they reminded everybody why the Giants have been such an embarrassment for the last several years in the NFC East. Just a truly depressing loss from these Giants. But hey, the Yankees are in the World Series, so we can't be too upset, right? But Alex, how are you feeling today? I know obviously you're pissed off with this loss. So am I. It's really disappointing. But what is your initial reaction to this game?
My initial reaction to this game, well, the season's over. It's week 7. I have so much to say, and I'm going to try to get through all of it, guys. But listen, this Giants team 2 weeks ago against Seattle looked like a competent NFL roster. They looked like they played hard. They looked like they could fight. They looked like they could actually put up some points. To fall this far down the tree in 2 weeks is impressive as a Giants fan. To watch how far we've fallen in just 2 weeks. Now, I know Andrew Thomas is out of this game. I know that the pass protection didn't look great today. And I know that hurts Daniel Jones. But Daniel Jones has zero ability to elevate the players around him. Zero ability, right? He just sat there, and even when he did have a pocket, he didn't get rid of the ball fast enough. He was too late on some of his reads. And listen, this is not about just Daniel Jones. This was a full team masterclass piece of garbage. And I think, yeah, at this point, I think we're gonna have to throw the explicit screen up on this, because I can't sit here and act like this team even fought today, right? Saquon Barkley didn't play the fourth quarter for the most part. He had 17 carries for 176 yards and multiple touchdowns. He put Joe Shane's face in the dirt and freaking rubbed it around. Rubbed his face in the dirt. Little swirly action. He just proved, I mean, I'm not going to say that it was a mistake, because the Eagles are not a good football team. The Giants are just that bad. I want to make that very clear. The Eagles are not a very good football team. The Giants are just that fucking bad. Okay? That's the reality. We didn't look that, like, the Eagles almost lost to the Browns last week with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. They are not a good football team. The Giants just freaking suck. The offense, look, even without Andrew Thomas, guys, 3 points Daniel Jones provided us. 3 points. He has not thrown a touchdown in MetLife since I was in fucking diapers. Okay? I legitimately do not know how people are going to be in the comments right now saying that he didn't have Andrew Thomas and he didn't have this and he didn't have that. Excuses. I see quarterbacks every single week with less do more. I watch Andy Dalton do freaking more. I know we just do a pick 6, but that's aside the point. We watch Andy Dalton do more. I've seen so many worse players do more, getting a lot less money.
And Jalen Hurts didn't have his left tackle today either, and that didn't bother him. He was hanging in the pocket, throwing dimes downfield. He had a sick touchdown pass to A.J. Brown on the left sideline. I mean, every single week we see quarterbacks lose pieces to their offense. Players get hurt. It's part of the game. But does the quarterback rise above? Does he elevate the team? Does he make the plays in spite of everything going wrong around him? That's what great quarterbacks do. The Giants don't have a great quarterback. They don't even have a good one. They have a guy that crumbles under the pressure, that when things don't go according to plan, he can't rise to the occasion. He can't overcome the adversity. That's truly just the situation that we're in, and we see it week in and week out with Daniel Jones. I don't understand how people are still defending him. It doesn't make sense to me. And you know what? Listen, not to make excuses for Jones, because you guys know I'm not going to make excuses for Jones. He needs to be better. He needs to rise above all of this. But not for nothing, the play calling really wasn't so great today. And I can't tell if it was just because Brian Dable didn't feel comfortable with Jones back there, if he didn't feel comfortable with the offensive line. but the running backs touched the ball, what, 3 times in the first half? What were we doing? You knew that the pass protection was going to break down more frequently than usual in this game because Andrew Thomas wasn't in there. So I would think, all right, run the ball. Pound the rock. You've got an explosive rookie in Tyrone Tracy. Devin Singletary's back in the lineup. He's healthy. You've got a good backfield here. Why don't you run the football in this game? That should have been the game plan, in my opinion. Take the pressure off of the offensive line and pass protection. Make it so that Daniel Jones doesn't have to carry the team. Instead, Brian Daboll just calls all passing plays in the first 2 quarters of the game. He's like, Daniel Jones, you've got no offensive line protection. It's not as good as it usually is, but go out there and make something happen. It almost felt to me like Brian Daboll wanted to expose Daniel Jones in some way. He was like, yeah, show everybody how bad you are. That's how it felt. Obviously, that's not the case, and I'm being hyperbolic. But seriously, I didn't understand the play calling from Brian Daboll. You have to run the ball. You have to establish a ground game when your offensive line is missing your best pass protector. It just didn't make sense. The Giants' game plan did not make sense. And this is another thing. The Giants surrendered 28 points in this game. They let Saquon Barkley run all over them. The Giants' defense did not play poorly, though, in my opinion. In the second half of the game, the effort started to really slack, and their run defense got really bad. But to me, that was a result of them being on the field too much. They started getting banged up. They started getting gassed, right? Brian Burns went out with an injury because he got hurt on a rushing attack from the Eagles. What was happening was the Giants' offense not sustaining any drives, quick 3-and-outs, the defense running off the field, running right back on the field, having to defend Saquon Barkley once again. You can't win games like that. If your offense isn't scoring points, everything around you collapses. The Giants defense didn't necessarily play bad. They made some plays in the beginning of the game. The pass rush was incredible in the first quarter. But you know what else was terrible in the first quarter? The Giants offense. They didn't move the ball. They didn't control the clock. They just kept punting, giving the ball away to the Eagles once again, and forcing the defense to run back out there, gas themselves, and let up some rushing yards. So that's why by the end of the game, the Eagles were running all over them willy-nilly. It's not because the defense is bad. We've seen over the last several weeks that this Giants defense is legit, but there's only so much a defense can do when the offense continues to go 3-and-out and score 0 points nearly every single possession.
I mean, listen, I could sit here all day and talk about this offense, and you're right. The one thing I do want to make very well clear is that Brian Daboll's play calling today was really, really bad. Really bad. It was probably the worst play calling game he's had all year. And it wasn't remotely close, to be quite honest. 3 rushing attempts. When you're watching Saquon Barkley destroy you, and the best way to cover up a bad offensive line is to run the football, because pass protection is so much more difficult. Tyrone Tracy's coming off back-to-back great games. Lean on him, run the ball, maintain time of possession. Instead, he gave the ball to Daniel Jones, where he flopped, he couldn't complete passes, he was running for his life, and they returned the ball right back over to the Eagles here, and they maintained possession. We couldn't convert on third downs. We had a couple drops. I know Wandale had a drop, and listen, it was everything looked stalled. Everything looked bad. I'm not gonna sit here and act like it was only Daniel Jones. It was Brian Daboll that looked terrible. It was Darius Slayton that didn't do much. It was Wandale that didn't do much. It was the running game that didn't do much. The pass protection was horrible. JMS didn't look good. Theo Johnson gets called for an OPI. It was the whole offense. It was a team shit show. It was a team effort, man. Like that's, it's not just on one singular player here. But listen, your quarterback's the one that's supposed to elevate everybody. Your quarterback's the one that's supposed to inspire, make something happen, create. And DJ's just unfortunately incapable of doing that. He's incapable of elevating the players around him unless everything is going perfectly for him. We're beyond this, though. We all know this already. If there's people out there that are still singing the same DJ song, they're in purgatory, man. Like they're suffering more than we are. We've already come to acceptance that this is over. This experiment is done. I'm benching Daniel Jones now. Next week, moving forward. I know Brian Daboll probably said he's not doing that.
Yeah, but I was just about to tell you. Hate to break the news to you, but Daboll just said Jones is still the quarterback moving forward.
And that is the dumbest shit, and I blame Daboll for this right now. Mm-hmm. Right now, I am blaming Daboll for this. Why? The Giants' season is over. They're over. The only reason that Daniel Jones is starting is because he's better than Drew Lock, which is a fact. And he's the only way that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane's jobs are probably going to be saved because maybe they can win an extra game here. But this season is over, guys. We're 2-5. We've lost 3 division games. We have a really solid Steelers team next week, and the Commanders were going to beat us down because we can't score more than 3 fucking points against an Eagles team or a Cincinnati Bengals team that scored 7. And they had one of the worst defenses in football going into last week. This is a situation where the Giants are just trying to keep their heads above water just so they don't get mass fired right now. If I'm Joe Shane, I'm calling out sick tomorrow because I can't face John Mara after what Saquon Barkley just did to us, right? I can't face him. I can't face that if I'm Joe Shane. It's horrible. Like, the construction of this roster is horrible. We called it out in the preseason, guys. The secondary was bad. We called it out in the in the offense. Like, they don't have enough. Daniel Jones is not good enough. We knew this was coming. We tried to warn everyone, and now we're sitting here in week 7. The fucking season's over. And you know what the best part to come away from this, Anthony? I get to watch things. I get to sit down with my family on Thanksgiving. And I don't got to work this year. I don't got to fucking work this year. I'm not working on Thanksgiving. No fucking shot I'm watching this piece of shit garbage team against Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I'll have it on in the background. I'll check in every now and then. I'm not watching that team. This is a joke. I mean, our job is to do this, and they've literally forced me to reconsider watching this team for work. And we're gonna do it anyway at a very minimal level the rest of the season. We're gonna and most of our effort, Anthony, is going into the scouting of quarterbacks next year. That's where most of our effort's going. The draft. We're already at that point in the season, man. The freaking draft. And watching the development of our young talent. That's where we are in this season. Daniel Jones, sayonara, buddy. I'll see you never again. It's over after this. I don't know what the fuck Dable is thinking keeping this guy. I'm sorry, Anthony. I gotta get one more thing off my chest. Dable is going to get Daniel Jones injured. Because Josh Azidu should never be stepping foot at left tackle on an NFL team again. He cannot block. He is horrible. Evan Neal, I'm willing to bet money, is equally as horrible at left tackle. They have to move, and this is what I said on day 1 when Andrew Thomas went down. They have to move Jermaine Illuminor to left tackle, or this season is over. And not just this season, it's already over, but more so Daniel Jones is going to absolutely fuck us because of his injury guarantees. Josh Azidu is going to get Daniel Jones injured. He is going to not pass his physical in March. We're going to owe him the entire salary next year. And I actually may not watch this fucking team again. Because if they cook us like this, if they hurt the fan base like this, it is not only irresponsible, it is unforgivable. If Daniel Jones gets hurt, I am 100% for firing that entire coaching staff except for a select few people. A select few. They cannot sustain this. They have to acknowledge that if he gets injured and he misses the rest of the season, something happens to him, they're going to get fired because it would be a catastrophic event for that to occur, Anthony. I can't fathom the logic that Daniel Jones is starting next week. There's nothing to support it. Not a single freaking piece of logic I can think of to support starting Daniel Jones, because if it happens and they cook our fan base like this and they put us in purgatory for another season paying his fucking contract, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I really don't.
No, listen, I mean, if he does get hurt and, they have to pay out that injury clause, it's going to be a disaster, and it's just going to be the most damning piece of evidence against Joe Shane. We've been praising his rookie draft class all season long, Alex. We're really impressed with the talent that he found in the middle rounds of this year's draft, and it's all going to be for naught if he has to hand over that much more money to Daniel Jones in March because he can't pass his physical. It would just be an embarrassing mistake. And I want to bring this up with you, Alex. This is a quote from Brian Dable here that I found really strange. He said, Brian Dable told the media after the game that he pulled Daniel Jones for Drew Lock to, quote, create a spark, but that Jones will be the quarterback going forward. You're trying to create a spark in the final 11 minutes of the game, but you're not trying to create a spark to turn the season around. You see what I'm saying here? This logic doesn't really make sense to me. If you're trying to create a spark, that's what you're trying to do. Daniel Jones isn't your quarterback moving forward.
That's acknowledging that Jones can't spark the offense.
Acknowledging that the offense is not being sparked by its $40 million franchise quarterback, and it needs its $5 million backup QB to step in and try and create a spark. I mean, come on, what are we doing here? Daniel Jones is really going to be the starter next week? Okay, well then how much longer after that? Because if you don't trust him to spark this offense, I mean, what are you going to do? How do you keep moving forward with him as your starting quarterback? I just don't understand it anymore. It's become so ridiculous to me. Like, we're now 7 weeks into the season. Just week after week, we expect some sort of improvement, right? That's all we want to see is just a little bit of improvement, gradual improvement week to week. And somehow we get worse week to week as a Giants offense. I just don't understand what we're doing here and why we're pussyfooting around and not making the necessary decisions to just cut off this experiment and move on. It's necessary at this point. And if you don't believe that it's necessary, look at the Giants salary cap and look at what happened to them this offseason, Alex. I think about this at least 5 times every single Giants game. This one interaction that I had on Twitter with Ralph Vacchiano of Fox Sports. You probably know where I'm going with this, Alex. In the offseason, Ralph Vacchiano, I think it was after Baker Mayfield or somebody signed a big contract, he went on Twitter and he said, that Daniel Jones contract is going to look like a bargain if he even plays anywhere close to his 2022 season. I said, going to look like a bargain? Even if he plays like a top 20 quarterback, it's, even if he gets to a decent level, it's not going to look like a bargain. There's no way for that to look like a bargain when he has the highest salary cap hit in the NFL this season. That's not possible. He said, no, it didn't restrict them from making any moves in the offseason. How did that contract not restrict the Giants from making moves in the offseason when you have a first-team all-pro safety for the Green Bay Packers running around making plays at 25 years old right now that was on the New York Giants last season? Xavier McKinney should still be on this team. He's not because of that contract. Saquon Barkley just ran for 180 all-purpose yards against us. Why is he not on the Giants? Because the Giants signed Daniel Jones instead. That contract absolutely did restrict everything they wanted to do this offseason. It totally screwed them over. It's not a bargain. In fact, it's a pair of handcuffs completely preventing the Giants from moving forward and building out their roster. Yes, they have done a lot to add talent through the draft, and they have some young pieces who are rising. They have some players who have ups and downs. Deonte Banks being one of them. Ups a couple weeks ago, down again today. That was awful from him, what we saw in terms of his effort, and I want to dive into that for a second. But first, I got to say, you look around at this roster, Alex, the way it's constructed, the Giants are just banking on young guys to progress. Not every young guy is going to progress. You can't always expect the development to go according to plan. But that's what this team is right now, and that's poor roster construction. And again, my point being, when Ralph Vacchiano decided to get sassy with me on Twitter and say that deal was a bargain for Daniel Jones and said that it didn't restrict them from doing anything they wanted to in free agency, he said, look, they signed Brian Burns. They made this move. They got Runyon and Illuminor. Okay, but Xavier McKinney walked out of the door for $0, and so did Saquon Barkley. That is due to the fact that the Giants were handcuffed by that Daniel Jones contract. I am just so tired of the notion that contract isn't what's screwing this team over. And if he does get hurt this season because Azizu is the left tackle, which is a bad decision from Brian Daboll, if Daniel Jones does get hurt and that contract is still a problem in 2025, it is going to be a fireable offense for Joe Schoen, Brian Daboll, and everybody else in that building. You simply cannot allow your future to get compromised by that contract any further. You've already allowed it to be. Daniel Jones is not worth more than the combination of Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney. Both of those players should still be on this roster, and I was a proponent of letting Saquon Barkley go. But when you're stacking it up, those two players against this one, I mean, he's still making double the amount of money that those two players are combined. Think about how ridiculous that sounds. He's making twice as much as McKinney and Barkley combined. So, again, if you are going to keep putting him out there and expecting a spark to just suddenly be lit here from Daniel Jones, and you're expecting him not to get hurt, you are just playing with the fire yourself. You're asking to get fired if you're Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. But Alex, I do need to allow you, I'm actually just going to put you here on center stage. Get it off your chest. Talk about that effort from Deonte Banks. I know you're pissed off. I know it was just freaking gross. Atrocious effort from Deonte Banks there. I know you know the play that I'm talking about. I don't know why this continues to be a problem. If he continues to have such poor effort like this in the fourth quarter of these games, you're going to have to bench Deonte Banks.
His confidence is shot, man. You know what I mean? His confidence is being killed. They're putting him on an island with some of the best receivers in the game, and he's getting beaten to shreds. And I unfortunately, we knew this was coming, Anthony. We said it months ago. This secondary was not good enough. Banks, if he struggles, they're going to be in trouble, and they are struggling. And the defense has been fine for the most part. I don't even want to sit here and act like the defense hasn't been. They've been fine. But the offense continues to give the ball back to them and force them to compete and force them to hold their own. They're exhausted out there, man. Dexter Lawrence is banged up. Brian Burns is fighting through a serious groin injury that he's playing through. What more can you ask from the defense? They're laying it all out on the line. and then their offense is going out and laying up a fucking duck. You know, if I'm Deontay Banks, I'm thinking to myself, this offense is not giving me any reason to compete, right? We've seen this happen before, dude. This is not the first time we've seen defensive players on the Giants give up. I've watched Leonard Williams give up on plays. I watched DRC give up on plays. I watched Janoris Jenkins give up on plays. This is nothing fucking new. This is usual Giants bullshit. The offense sucks balls, and we're watching the defense give up halfway through the year. We've seen this in story 100 times. It's been on Broadway for years now, right? This is the same freaking thing we've watched for a decade now. The defense giving up midway through the year because the offense can't score points. And Daniel Jones has been there for 6 of them, and we're still here talking about the same bullshit. It's over. It's over. Like, there is no coming back. This season is over. It's 2-5. 0-3 in the division. The defense is going to be giving up now. They're not going to be fighting the way that we saw them fight 2 weeks ago against Seattle, right? And if they do, all kudos to them. And I feel bad for Brian Burns. I feel bad for Dexter Lawrence. Those guys are fighting their asses off, and they're still being thrown under the bus. You know what I mean? And listen, at this point in time, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing that they can do. I feel horrible for them because they're balling. You know, I feel horrible for the defense. Banks, you just can't do it, man. You're in your second year. You're young. You're spry. You got to chase these guys down. You got to be on your horse. There's no excuse to not hustle. No matter what the score is, if you're in the game, you're being paid millions of dollars to play a freaking game, man. You're gonna be running your ass off. I don't care. If you're gassed, I don't care. You know, I watch these bigger guys do it. So, at this point in time, there's got to be consequences for Deontay Banks if he keeps doing this. It's inexcusable. They were talking about it during the game. The coaches were obviously upset about it. Nobody else is struggling like that. But I'll tell you what, Anthony, right now, you want to know what that tells me? The Giants got to be going out and get a CB in free agency next year because they can't lean on Deontay Banks to be a CB1 right now. He's not ready. He needs to be eased in. They threw him into the fire, and that's poor roster construction. You know, the best thing that the Jets did, they had Sauce Gardner, and he had DJ Reed next to him, and they developed him, and he took on fast, and he was able to take that top job. But the Giants don't have anybody else out there. Nick McLeod's getting cooked. Trey Hawkins is getting cooked. Adoree Jackson's washed. You know, Cordell Flott injured his hamstring again, I believe. You know, like this secondary is torn to shreds. Season's over. And it's time to turn the chapter on a couple of these veteran guys. Like Darius Slayton, see you later, buddy. He's getting traded at the deadline. This game was the deciding factor of the trade deadline, in my opinion. Slayton's being moved, for sure. Just a matter of who is he going to. Azeez Ojulari, probably getting moved, but the Giants don't have any freaking pass rushers right now. Brian Burns is hurt. It's Kayvon Thibodeau's hurt. Like, what do you do? Like, we have no one left.
You can't rely on Tom and Fox here, so you're gonna have to keep Azeez Ojulari. Like, seriously, you can't afford to trade him. And then with Darius Slayton, like, I hear you, I get it, why you would want to trade him, but Jalen Hyatt is awful. Like, he is not a good football player.
Dude, Slayton's not even getting the football,
plays.
Dude.
He's not getting the football, but I mean, listen. Jalen Hyatt. I mean, first of all, Jalen Hyatt got hurt today.
Dude, get Isaiah Hodgins up there. I'd rather see fucking Hodgins.
Yeah, sure.
We can't even throw the ball downfield.
I'm with that. I do like Isaiah
Hodgins. Slayton's useless. We can't throw the ball downfield. You know what I mean?
Except for the
useless.
1 or 2 random games a year where Daniel Jones decides to lock in and throws the ball downfield. But
the one pass he had downfield, he threw it to triple coverage on 3rd and long.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it was third and 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's like
why the
other
one was
to
Daniel
Jones to take shots,
coverage.
and then he takes these shots, and they're just like incompletable shots. Like
they're not even possible.
Pass like that. Yeah, it's not even possible to make a completion there. I will say though, Alex, I want to have a little bright spot of positivity here. I'm just going to name a few players. I'm going to name a few players that I'm going to praise and just say they played well. You named one of them, Drew Phillips. Another great game from him. That kid is a stud. Great pick from the Giants in the 3rd round. Dexter Lawrence is the defensive player of the year. If he even stays anywhere close to the pace that he's on right now, this is going to be a historically good season from Dexter Lawrence. He has 9 sacks in 7 games as a nose tackle. That is unheard of. What he is doing is truly incredible. And going forward, if he just continues to maintain this pace, he should be defensive player of the year regardless of the Giants' record. He's been that freaking good. So we know that the Giants have a couple studs on defense. Brian Burns has been great. He's injured now, which sucks, but he played another good game. Okereke had some good moments. Micah McFadden had some decent moments. Some of these players did grade out well. In fact, actually, Alex, if you look at the in-game grading on PFF, the live recorded grades, almost everybody in the defense is positive. Like, the defense did play well according to the eye test from just watching the game, the box score, and even the PFF grades and whatever other crap you want to bring up to look at it. This defense played a good game. They did not get their ass beat the way that the 28-3 score reflects. Unfortunately, they got banged up a lot. They had to deal with a lot of injuries, and the offense couldn't sustain a single freaking drive and get the ball into the end zone, and that is why the score got so lopsided. This Giants team does not lose games because of its defense. This Giants team only loses games because this offense continues to fail this defense. And honestly, Alex, when we hired Brian Daboll, he was hired to fix the offense. He was pegged as this offensive guru, this quarterback guru, this mastermind on the offensive side of the ball. The fact that the Giants offense has been so incompetent every single year that he's been here truly is damning for Brian Daboll. And it's really difficult to get behind him and say, hey, yeah, I have full confidence in you going forward. Listen, I am confident in Daboll. I still think he's a good coach, and he has some good moments. But he also just has not been good enough either. Nobody really has. This Giants team has been such an embarrassment this season, now 2-5, bottom place in the division, and really just sinking very quickly to the bottom of the NFL. I mean, they're 2-5, and we're seeing a lot of bad teams find wins. When we get to that game against Carolina, Alex, in Germany, that's going to be a game now. You know, we were talking about that at the beginning of the year, like, oh, that's the one that you can lock in as a win for us. Shit, I don't know about that, man.
Toilet bowl.
I don't know. Yeah, that might end up being the one that decides who gets the next big quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, listen, right now, we're talking about Cam Ward. We're talking about Garrett Nussmeier. We're talking about players that are going to hopefully be able to step in and help us next year. But look, the truth is right now, my friends, is that the Giants are one of the worst teams in football. You see what a quarterback can do for you overnight. Look at Jaden Daniels, what he's doing right now, torching the Panthers. It's just we have been watching the same movie over and over again for 6 years. It's time to turn it off. It's time to flip it off. It's time to go to the next movie. It's time to change the chapter here. The Giants have been force feeding us this nonsense, this false hope. And I feel like I've been lied to over and over again. And we're starting to, I mean, we're not starting. We've been calling it out for the better course of a year now. And now everyone's coming around to see it. And I know it's not just Daniel Jones' fault. The play calling was horrible today. They didn't run the ball enough. The offensive line was poor. But it's a team effort. And, like, they all sucked on offense. The defense held their own in the first half. It just blew open in the second half because they were on the field. They were gassed, injured, hurt, bleeding. Like, they just couldn't maintain anything. This was the offense's fault. And it has been for 6 years. And there's only one factor in that equation that has been there for all 6 years. You guys know what I'm talking about, man. We got to move on. It's time. It's over. Like, whether it's Tommy DeVito or Drew Lock, and I want to make something very clear, guys, and you're going to hate this, Anthony. Drew Lock sucks, and Tommy DeVito also sucks.
Hell no, come on.
But my point being is, the only reason that I'm excited for those guys, I don't care which one of them plays, one of them will be playing at some point this year. And the only reason I'm excited about that is because it guarantees that Daniel Jones will never step foot on a football field for the Giants again, so he cannot get hurt, right? He cannot hurt us next year. If the Giants allow him to hurt us next year, because the hits he's taken, man, he's going to get hit in the knee one of these days, and it's not going to be pretty. You know what I mean? Knock on wood. I hope to God it doesn't happen. Anything in the world. I hope to God that doesn't happen. But if he gets hurt and he goes down and we've been begging and we've been clamoring and the Giants have to pay him $40 million next year again, and we can't use that money to go get a cornerback or get a bridge quarterback or whatever it might be, I legitimately don't know how anyone's going to trust this team anymore. Like, the Giants are playing with fire. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are playing with fire. They're playing with their jobs. But I think they also acknowledge that their jobs are already on the line. Like, going from competent to what we saw today and last week is embarrassing. Embarrassing. They don't trust Daniel Jones. Brian Daboll said it. You said it before. We're trying to get a spark out of a $5 million backup journeyman quarterback in Drew Lock. That's where we've been boiled down to, guys. A spark from him. They have no faith in Daniel Jones. They have about as much faith as we do. The only thing staying between Daniel Jones and not playing is $40 million, and them not wanting to forfeit and wave the white flag and say that contract was a mistake. It's pride at this point. It's the only reason. It's pride.
Can you believe we have 10 more weeks of this?
No, I can't. I don't know how Dable's going to keep the locker room in
Yeah.
a state of competency. I don't.
Dude, I'm
He's
telling
going to
you.
lose this locker room in the next 2 weeks if they don't win.
Listen, I was joking when I was throwing up the DeVito, the Cutlet sign, but I mean that dude did rally the troops and get the locker room back on Dable's side last year. Like the Giants actually do need a spark.
Yeah, they do.
Unironically, they need to throw a quarterback in there who might spark something and rally the troops. Jones is not rallying the troops. Like right now, I think players are giving up and you're seeing a lack of effort on both sides of the ball here. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they know this offense is not moving the ball with Daniel Jones at quarterback. But hey, if you put Drew Lock in there, yeah, you're probably not moving the ball, but maybe you are. You know, there's the off chance that he does spark something. But the Giants need to try to spark something, and they need a quarterback that just says F it and plays like they have nothing to lose. The same way DeVito did last year when he somehow pulled off those three comeback wins, right? When he put together that winning streak, Tommy DeVito was just playing like he had nothing to lose because he really didn't. Like he shouldn't have been in the lineup. He happened to get on the field, and he happened to play his ass off, and the Giants won some games because of it because they all rallied behind him. The Giants need something like that to happen again in order for Brian Dable to keep his job. So while I'm joking by throwing up the cutlets and saying I want to see Tommy DeVito get in the lineup, listen, there is an element to this where if Dable doesn't make a decision like that and he doesn't get the troops to rally and he doesn't spark something, he might lose this locker room and then he might lose his job. So he's got to make some sort of a decision that does spark something and rally the troops. And that might just be putting in Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito. Probably Drew Lock, but hey, if he struggles, then yeah, I guess you're getting down to QB3 and we're talking about Tommy Cutlets again. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting and weird to see what happens over the next 10 weeks here again as Brian Dable fights to maintain his position as the Giants head coach. But some Giants fans might not even want him to. Some Giants fans might want him fired. And that's, I can't blame you if you feel that way. I think I'm a little bit on the fence. I need to see how these next 10 weeks go and see if the locker room does quit on him. If it does, then yeah, you got to get rid of him. But if he is able to pick up a few clutch wins and keep the locker room happy, then sure, I'll be open to one more year of Dable. It's not likely at this point. It's going to be a really rough 10 weeks. The Giants season is pretty much over. And like I was saying in yesterday's preview episode, Alex, we have players in this locker room who are talking to the media every week about how pissed off they are and sick and tired they are of constantly losing. Dexter Lawrence has had it with all of the losing. He is pissed. He does not want to lose another game. Unfortunately, he's going to have to lose quite a few more games this year. But these veteran players, these players who put in the work, who play through these injuries like Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence, it is just so disrespectful to go out there and turn in performances like this. When you have players like that putting in all of their heart and soul into these games, playing through injuries, it's just embarrassing and disrespectful to go out there and lay goose eggs like that on offense. So the locker room is absolutely going to be lost on this team if they don't turn things around and spark something ASAP. But right now, it's looking like it's going to be a really ugly 10 weeks.
I mean, dude, it's an ugly now. Like, it's. You're right though. The next 10 weeks are going to be hard to get through. But this is like every year for us, dude. Like 5 of the last 6 years have been ugly by week 5, week 6, week 7. And we've been facing the same situation, and we're just waiting for the season to end, just to end the pain. Man, I got therapy sessions scheduled right after the Giants games now. My therapist is going to be a millionaire by the end of this freaking season. It's like, it's like I said before, the same story over and over and over and over, and nothing seems to change. And we make an ounce of progress, and we get shot in the face, and both our legs were limbless here. Like, we can't maintain progress. You know what I mean? We can't maintain progress, and it starts with a new quarterback. And you guys are going to see that. And I think most people will suddenly recognize the fact that when we get a new quarterback and we see the guy throw a freaking touchdown for the first time in MetLife in his first game ever, we're going to realize we turned the page. And I think we're all going to come to a realization that the future is bright. We can rally. Even if we're struggling, I could rally around a young player with upside and hope. I can't rally around a year 6 player that's doing shit like this that Daniel Jones is doing. I can't rally around this anymore. I mean, look, I'm a Giants fan at the end of the day. I want this team to be great, but I can't sit here and act like this guy's going to be anything but mid to below average. The unfortunate truth is we're going to get a new quarterback next year. Week 1 at home, he's going to throw a touchdown pass in MetLife, and we're going to see all the memes, and we're going to remember right now this feeling, and we're going to change. We're going to turn the page. And we're never going to mention his name again, and we're going to move on, and we're going to be okay, right? We got the rest of our lives, right? And if you're a Yankee fan, you've been waiting since 2009 for a World Series. We finally made it, right? And what was the difference? Juan Soto. a big-time offensive weapon. A guy that's basically the quarterback of that offense, batting second right before Aaron Judge and Stanton yesterday. He's the quarterback of that offense. He makes it work. He takes the pitches. He's disciplined. He waits for his chance, and he's aggressive. Daniel Jones does not wait for his chances. He doesn't take them. He's not overly aggressive. He's a robot back there, and he can't elevate anyone around him, and he has no energy. No energy. His leadership is poor in there. He doesn't rally anybody, and he doesn't inspire anybody. It's tough, man. Like, this is what we have to deal with, and I have nothing against the guy as a human being. He's a hard worker, seems like a good dude. I have no problem with him. He's just not a good football player, and Brian Daboll today did him no favors abandoning the run early in the contest. I blame Brian Daboll as well for today. This is not just on Daniel Jones, and I'll make that very clear. This was drops. The Giants lead the league in drops this year. Brian Daboll's inconsistent play calling. The offensive line looked horrible today. Daniel Jones didn't elevate anyone. You can pick on any single variable, and it's all to blame. And now we're sitting here going into Week 8 against a very good Steelers team that is going to beat us. You know, whether it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. And Justin Fields will win football games, man. You know what I mean? Like, he's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. He makes things happen. In the locker room, they respect him because he makes things happen. He leaves it all on the line. It sucks, you know. Like, this is what purgatory feels like as a football fan. We've been here for a long time, so all I can say is this: the future, the grass is greener. It will be better. We will get through this together. But for now, we're emotional. We're upset. We're blaming naturally. And all we can do is look to the future and start looking at the quarterback, start looking at the draft prospects, Anthony. We're gonna start doing a lot more work on that, I think, because I don't think I can sit here and talk about day-to-day Giant stuff anymore. It's depressing as a content creator.
No, it is. It's tough, and we're obviously going to have to make some shifts and start looking towards the future here, and I know a lot of fans in our comment section have been asking for us to do that anyway, so we're going to deliver, and we're going to give you guys some draft content. Even though it's early, it's October, really hate to look ahead that far, but just don't have a choice with a 2-5 team that just keeps sinking deeper and deeper every single week. It's very unfortunate, but you know what, dude? I've about had it. Almost 40 minutes of ranting about this team. I've got it all off my chest. I'm ready to say goodnight. I mean, listen, it's just so disappointing every single week having to do another one of these videos, these live reactions where we're pissed off and we're cursing, and I have to put the parental advisory sticker at the beginning of the video. I hate doing it. I know you guys love it when I do it, and it's funny, but man, it just sucks that we have to do that every week because this Giants team is so bad. I wish that I was putting parental advisory, Alex, because we were screaming LFG. You know, I wish we were so excited and so happy, but we're just not. We're sad. We're depressed. This team sucks, and it's just another miserable year as a Giants fan. But hey, hopefully they do something in the next few weeks to make a spark, and hopefully give us something exciting to talk about. But regardless, we will be here still daily, every single day and every single week on Fireside Giants. You can find us miserable and depressed, uploading for your guys' enjoyment. Can't wait to keep doing it for you, though, because I love you guys. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.